There's a famous sports book, Stephen A. and Jay, and it's well known, Ball 4 by Jim Bouton. And it's really considered a kind of seminal work for, it changed things. Because rather than just books and media lionizing sports stars, it's like, no, let me take you peek behind the curtain. This is what's really happening. So, of course, it's like, what about the sanctity of the locker room? And on the other hand, it's a valuable kind of piece of journalism. So what did Jordan do? Did Jordan tell on his teammates, and was that a bad thing? Yep, that you can reasonably say, hey, that should stay in the locker room. And in another way, he's giving the public more information. Now, there's a separate criticism that Hodges also touched on, that because Jordan's controlling the documentary, it's not really a documentary. It's not exactly a piece of journalism. And that's true. You can take from it what you will. It's really a piece of entertainment. But it's great entertainment. I think it's extraordinarily well done. And when something is done like this and it's telling a story from the past, there will always be disgruntled characters from the past about which the story tells that thinks that their story didn't get in there enough, or that one point of view became dominant. And that's what's happening here. Hodges is not out of line. I would like clarification on a few things he said.
Max, I agree with you wholeheartedly, especially that back half of what you just were able to expound upon. And here's the thing, I don't want Craig Hodges to be vilified, okay? Because there are two sides to the coin, and the saying that now everybody has their own truth. So, one of the things that I see just perceptively here is, Michael Jordan is telling his story from his POV. Michael Jordan's POV is very similar to the Kobe Bryant POV, right? Like, at times they are so fixated on what they have to achieve. And Michael has alluded to this during the documentary where he says, look, we're winning at all costs here. We have to do what it takes to do to win. It seems like Craig Hodges, and yes, Stephen A., I agree with you to a degree, he might be begruntled, but it seems like perceptively he was a lot more aware about some of the things that were going on outside of basketball because of his circumstances, right? He wasn't Michael Jordan. So, one of the things I just want to make sure is that, Craig Hodges, he is telling his truth. Now, one of the things I could see a little bit throughout this documentary is that this is Michael Jordan's truth. I don't know if this is all the way Scottie Pippen's truth. I don't know if this is all the way Steve Kerr's truth or other teammates that he was able to have. So I do like the fact that Craig has stood up about this because it gives people insight into, okay, like, that's Michael Jordan's story that he's telling right now during a pandemic, which has the world literally on halt watching this. But these are Michael Jordan's facts in his mind. This is not maybe the facts overall of exactly what happened due to everybody involved in this story. I do like the fact that he's shaping that POV to an extent.
Jay, I want to say this to you and Max, and I want y'all to think about this before we go to commercial break. Number one, Craig Hodges, I didn't hear him refuting things that Michael Jordan said. I heard him expressing a problem with what Michael Jordan had to say. The fact that Michael Jordan was willing to say it. Not that he was denying that it was true. That's number one. Number two, let's go into the details. Scottie Pippen being selfish. Was it not true that Scottie Pippen was on the documentary saying, I held up my surgery because I didn't want to mess up my summer. Damn them, they underpaid me. They wasn't treating me right. I wasn't going to help them. I was going to enjoy my summer, and it caused them to miss 35 games into the next season, and that next season was when he was talking about I would never play in a Chicago Bulls uniform again, even though he ultimately changed his mind. Horace Grant, the Jordan rules. Even though Jordan said that was Horace Grant, and Horace Grant, to his credit, categorically and emphatically denied it, I'm telling you as people who were covering the league, and I wasn't covering the league back then in 1990, 91, but all you heard from the reporters, ask Mike Wilbon and others who were covering the sport. Everybody was told it was Horace Grant. And last but not least, when we talk about the timing of the Jordan documentary, can we call it what it is? It was supposed to debut in June. But then the coronavirus pandemic kicked in. Games were suspended. The leagues were suspended. There was no sports. And it was moved up in large part by ESPN, okay, to April so we could have some sports. And damn it, we have it.